That year when my son was diagnosed with leukemia, my husband Oliver passed away in a car accident. But when my son turned 6, I unexpectedly saw Oliver, who was supposed to be dead, at a parent-child amusement park. At that time, in order to survive, my son Liam and I could only scavenge for garbage to get by. Liam picked up an Ultraman toy with no arms from the ground, seriously wiped off the shoe prints, and smiled happily. "Mom, I finally have a toy." I felt a bit sour in my heart and was about to pat his head when he suddenly ran towards the carousel, shouting, "Dad, I'm Liam." Looking up, I saw Oliver holding hands with a woman and carrying a lovely little girl, looking just like a family of 3, seeing Liam running towards him. The tenderness on the man's face immediately vanished. He quickly shielded his wife and daughter and kicked Liam away as if to say, "What is this little beggar?" The kick wasn't hard, but I saw the frail Liam being sent flying and fall heavily to the ground. I didn't have time to catch him. I only saw his big eyes wide open, blood continuously flowing from his forehead. "Mom, is it because I'm too dirty that Dad can't recognize me?" I felt the child I was holding getting colder, and I knelt down to ask the people around me for help. Attracted by the noise, Oliver saw me, paused for a moment, and squatted down to embrace Liam. "If there's someone to blame, it should be your mother. She's not the one I love, yet she gave birth to my child." When I woke up again, I was back to the time when I first learned I was pregnant. Oliver saw me, put down the documents in his hands, and walked over to me. Did he rush to the office to find me because something happened? At that moment, I was holding the pregnancy checkup report. In the past, I excitedly told Oliver the news of my pregnancy. As I expected, he showed a surprised smile, happily embraced me, and told me he was very happy. Now, facing his puzzled gaze, I only felt a chill. His words to Liam were still echoing in my mind. I instinctively wanted to ask, "Liam is your child. Why can you be so heartless to him?" But in this lifetime, he could never explain clearly to the Liam who never closed his eyes in the last life. What happened is the office too cold? Seeing me standing there motionless, that man took off his suit jacket and draped it over me. I took a few steps back, hid the pregnancy checkup slip behind my back, forced a smile, and originally intended to bring you something, but only realized here that I forgot to take it. After saying that, I turned and left as if I were escaping. As I lay on the hospital bed, I saw the tiny shape of the fetus on the screen. The fetus is still very small. If you want to terminate the pregnancy, there's still time, but you need to think it over carefully. Looking at the ultrasound report showing the baby's health status, I ultimately decided not to terminate this pregnancy. He is my Liam. Liam, who didn't have a good life in the last life, but remained so warm and kind. In this life, should I let him lose the chance to live? "Thank you, doctor. I'll think about it some more." My phone lit up with a message from Oliver, asking where I was. I told him my address, and then he seemed a bit anxious, quickly saying not to wander around, that he would be there soon. Oliver arrived quickly, out of breath, looking at me and asking why I suddenly came to the hospital and what was wrong. After confirming that I was fine, he breathed a sigh of relief and prepared to hold my hand and leave. Suddenly, there was a commotion not far away. A few people were excitedly arguing about something, looking like they were causing trouble. Oliver glanced casually and then suddenly stopped in his tracks. The grip on my hand tightened, and the man's expression turned grim. "Grace, wait a moment, I'm going to check it out." After saying that, he paused for a moment and added, "I don't like seeing someone make things difficult for a girl." He shook off my hand and hurried away. He might have forgotten that we grew up together. How could I not know how cold-hearted he really is? Clearly, in a past life, he could be ruthless to his own son, yet now he says he can't stand to see a girl suffer. Oliver squeezed through the crowd and stood in front of the intern doctor being accused, swinging his fists at the troublemakers like a protector. The people were originally just ordinary family members of patients and were quickly taken down by Oliver. Then, the man brought the intern doctor to me, sounding a bit impatient, saying that a few family members of patients were causing a scene. and he needed to take her to the police station to file a report. The intern doctor called over, had red eyes, and timidly addressed me as sister-in-law. But I didn't have time to respond to her. I just stared intently at the name tag on her chest, which read Emily. I will never forget that name. In my past life, she was the one who caused Liam's blood coagulation issues, because she wanted to conduct medical research on children. She thoughtlessly abused her authority to harm them. Thinking of this, I felt a wave of fear and anger, causing my whole body to tremble, while I was in a daze. Oliver had already taken the person away. The family member who had just been knocked down by Oliver somehow got back up, seeing what had just happened. He rushed over and grabbed my collar, questioning why I was meddling in their affairs. What gives you the right to hit me? My child originally had no major issues, but now has become seriously ill. What will you do to compensate for my child's life? This person was seething with anger, shouting as he prepared to throw a punch at me. I shouted loudly and instinctively covered my stomach. Then, a powerful force slammed me hard to the ground. I felt warm liquid flowing out beneath me. I grabbed a passerby in a panic and asked for help, saying my child was in trouble. When I woke up again, the doctor frowned and told me that the fetus was safe. But the situation was still unstable, and I needed to be especially careful during this time, trying to avoid crowded places. You can't discharge yourself now. Have your husband come to pick you up. I called Oliver, and when it connected, a woman's voice came through, saying, "Don't mind me, that's my job." Oliver sounded a bit out of control. He said, "Didn't I say I would take care of you? If I hadn't seen it today, you might have been hurt. Let me tell you, Oliver, even though I'm not as wealthy as you, I have no desire to compete for someone else's husband or do anything so lowly." The words I was about to say were instead replaced by the sound of kissing. The man's breathing was somewhat rapid. Wasn't it already said before, "You are not an ordinary person. You are very important to me. She is my responsibility. I will first help her have a child." It turns out that after all these years of feelings, it all came down to responsibility in the end. Do you remember when 18-year-old Oliver confessed to me, blushing as he handed me a photo album? There are many photos of me inside, some of me dozing off, some with a wrinkled nose, some happy, and some looking dejected. "Grace, I like you." He may not say those romantic words, but he told me he has recorded every moment he liked me, when everyone thought we would break up due to losing the freshness of knowing each other for too long. Oliver proposed to me. Time has made me increasingly aware that I really can't live without you. At that time, they were still arguing. Women occasionally express some dissatisfaction and complaints. Men patiently and gently comfort her, saying to wait a little longer, that he would arrange a fake death and then be with her under a new identity. "You will be my rightful wife." I hung up the phone and walked out of the ward alone. As I was leaving the hospital, I saw those troublemakers being kicked out by security, but they were still lingering at the entrance. The way that person looked at me made me a bit nervous, and my heart was racing. I deeply understand what desperate parents feel like. They can sacrifice everything for their child, even their own lives. When I got home, I found a box. Inside are all the photos of me and Oliver, along with the album he gave me back then, in my past life. I relied on these to support myself and continue living. I used to point at Oliver in the group photo and tell Liam, "That's Daddy. He loves you just like Mommy does." When Liam asked me where Daddy was, I told him that Daddy went to a faraway place and can't come back yet. I originally thought that telling a white lie would protect Liam. But I never expected the truth behind that lie to be so terrible, nor did I expect it to lead to Liam's death. Watching the box burn to ashes, I felt very calm and called my mentor. I realized something. I want to create an accident that will completely erase my identity. "Oliver, this time I want to surprise you first. Next week, I'm going to join the confidential project team." As soon as I finished speaking, the door was unlocked by a fingerprint, and a man walked in. "What project team?" I hung up the phone and said, without changing my expression much, that my mentor's project team needed my help. The man gently hugged me, nuzzled my face affectionately, and teasingly asked, "Didn't we agree to seriously prepare for pregnancy? Why are you still thinking about other things?" When he was about to take off his shirt, I noticed there was a lipstick mark on it, an old-fashioned and uncomfortable approach. I pushed him away and told him to take a shower. When he came out of the shower, I pretended to be asleep on the bed. A gentle kiss fell on my face as the man lay down next to me. Perhaps due to the tension during the day, I developed a high fever at night. Just as I was hazily thinking of calling the person beside me, I realized he had woken up at some point and was on the phone. The night was very quiet, and the girl's voice sounded particularly anxious. Just now, a colleague said they saw the person who caused trouble during the day at the door. And I felt a bit scared. What if he comes while I'm on night duty? Seeing that the man had changed his clothes, I couldn't help but reach out and say, "Oliver, I have a fever, I feel terrible. Can you take me to the hospital?" But he didn't even look at me and just walked away. The man's back was firm yet blurry, making me feel as if I had returned to the past. On one side was my son's diagnosis, and on the other was my husband's death notice. I'm like a turtle without its shell, struggling to climb a hill full of rubble with my fragile body, trying to support another small life and keep moving forward. I used the last bit of my strength to call an ambulance. While getting in Roman 4, the nurse kindly asked if I had any family with me, as someone needed to supervise during the treatment. I shook my head to indicate that I could take care of myself. The little nurse felt a bit soft-hearted and stayed by my side when there weren't many patients. When looking for a husband, you should find someone like Emily's boyfriend, the pediatrician next door, who can be called over in the middle of the night. I heard he is a CEO and is willing to spend so much time with his girlfriend, which shows he really values her. As soon as we stepped out of the ward, we saw two people tightly embracing each other outside the door. Seeing me, Oliver stepped forward. Blocking the person behind him, frowned and said, "Are you following me?" I didn't answer directly, shifted my gaze, and simply said, "I have a fever and came to the hospital to check it out." It was then that he noticed my pale face, with an unusual flush, and he paused, seemingly wanting to say something. I looked a bit listless and didn't feel like chatting with him. He just said, "I'll take you back." At that moment, Emily walked out from behind the man, wearing a friendly smile, and said, "I'm a doctor. I can help take a look at your sister-in-law." She had treated Liam the same way back then. I forcefully shook her hand away, not wanting her to touch me. She slightly recoiled, tears in her eyes, and said, "I'm sorry." "It's my fault. Grace, she means well." The man shot me an angry glare, then turned to comfort the crying Emily. As he turned, I caught a glimpse of her provocative expression. Before long, I received a photo. The two of them looked very close in Oliver's office. "Your husband still prefers me, the unloved third party," at midnight. The man lay beside me, wet. As soon as he spoke, a strange fragrance wafted in. "Don't think too much, that's my teacher's daughter. She just entered society, so I'm looking after her a bit." I responded absent-mindedly, silently counting down in my heart. In 20 hours, I can leave with Liam, just halfway through eating. Oliver's phone rang, and it was a familiar female voice. It sounds like Emily is crying. Her voice is a bit muffled. Oliver comforted her for a moment, then frowned and handed me the phone, saying, "Emily is looking for you." He seemed a bit worried, so he turned on the speakerphone. I asked in confusion. And then Emily on the other end started crying loudly, saying, "Sister-in-law, can you make them let me go? I have no improper thoughts about Oliver. I know I was wrong. Don't worry. I will definitely not go looking for him again, I promise you, please." She started stuttering, her voice getting higher and higher. I was stunned, completely at a loss for how to respond. Oliver's expression was serious, his gaze piercing like a knife as he said to me, "Grace, you'd better pray that Emily is okay." I instinctively wanted to explain that I wouldn't do such a thing, but Oliver didn't believe me, coldly saying, "If anything happens to her, you'll pay the price." He left in a hurry. Not long after he left, someone came in. It was the family member of the previous medical dispute. He looked very agitated, "Finally finding you." The man held a knife. his eyes filled with despair and impulse, and he angrily said, "My son is dead. Your husband has covered everything up and is still protecting the murderer." He threw the phone at me and told me to call your husband, to tell him to either hand over the murderer or let you take the consequences. My son needs justice. My hands trembled as I dialed the number, Oliver. I've been kidnapped. The family of that patient at the hospital found my home. Can you help me call the police? Before I could finish, the man sneered, Emily, I haven't settled the score with you yet. How can you say you've been kidnapped, Grace? When did you become so heartless? The call was disconnected. I tried calling again, but the other party wouldn't answer. If I call again, I'll turn off my phone. The person in front of me began to lose patience and raised the knife in his hand. I felt despair and closed my eyes. I'm sorry, Liam. I couldn't protect you well in this life. Those who harassed Emily were taken to the police station. They said a woman named Grace paid them to trouble Emily. Oliver felt very irritable and pinched his brow. Emily silently looked at the man's face and said, her voice slightly choked, Oliver, don't blame my sister. I shouldn't have interfered in someone else's family. These lessons are mine to bear. Oliver scoffed, thinking to himself, what qualifications does she have? Wait, I will definitely make her apologize to you and let her remember this lesson. Emily was extremely happy and spoiled in the man's arms. Reluctantly letting him go, Oliver drove home in anger. From a distance, he saw police officers bustling in and out at his front door. He was startled and hurried over. Seeing the front door open, he noticed a clear pool of blood in the living room. He nervously grabbed someone and asked, what happened? Home invasion, the perpetrator killed someone. I heard the victim was a pregnant woman, which means 2 lives were harmed. Oliver felt as if his heart was being tightly squeezed, and a wave of coldness swept over him. In his own home, a pregnant woman. Who else could it be besides his wife, Grace? How could this be possible? He rushed in like a madman but was stopped by the police. The police said, Sir, this is a crime scene. Please do not interfere with our work. Oliver's eyes were red, and his voice was hoarse as he said, This is my home. My wife is still inside. But the police still did not let go, only looking at him with some sympathy, telling him that there was no one inside anymore. No one, what does that mean? Where is my wife? She just called me earlier. Oliver's lips trembled as he tightly gripped the police officer's sleeve. The police sighed and said, We understand how you feel, but the incident has already occurred. We will catch the criminal as soon as possible. Please accept our condolences. Oliver could only see the police officer's mouth moving. But his mind was blank. He continued to hold on to the officer, his eyes filled with rage, as if this person was the reason for his wife's disappearance. At that moment, a transparent plastic bag was held up in front of him. The bag contained Grace's phone, the edge stained with blood, and the call history page was especially clear. Oliver felt a wave of panic, his eyes widening in an instant. He remembered that phone call. The victim made a distress call while being kidnapped, likely under duress from the kidnappers. It is expected that the 2 sides did not reach an agreement, and the kidnappers fled after killing the victim. You are the victim's husband. You should know this number. Right. Oliver opened his mouth to speak, but after a long pause, he finally managed to squeeze out, This is my number. The police officer had a complex expression and said, Then please come with us. We need to ask you some questions. Oliver was cooperative but had one request, to see Grace, even if it was just her body. The police shook his head and said, The body has already been sent for forensic processing. The deceased left a will requesting direct cremation and burial. A will. The police handed me a photo, which was found at the scene. The handwriting was somewhat messy, looking like it was written in haste, but it was indeed Grace's. There weren't many words. But Oliver looked at it for a long time. Grace mentioned her funeral arrangements, her assets, and even mentioned a cat in the community that she cared about. But she did not mention Oliver at all. She didn't even leave a single blank space. Next to the suicide note, there was also a pregnancy checkup report. The report date is the most recent one. Oliver could hardly hold back his tears. On the day he lost his wife, he also lost his child. His heart felt empty. And he began to resent himself for not believing her, for not answering her calls. He started punishing himself in extreme ways, not eating or drinking, staying awake all night. When the phone rang again, Oliver suddenly snapped back to reality, and without thinking, he answered, "Grace, is that you?" The caller paused for a moment and told him it was the police. "Mr. Oliver, we have captured the kidnapper. Would you like to come and see?" Oliver saw the person who caused Grace's death. It was the family member who had cursed at her in Emily's hospital. The father of a child. Seeing Oliver's face, the man's expression turned wild. He pointed and shouted, "It's you. The woman you protected killed my child." He began to laugh maniacally. "Now you know what it feels like to lose a child, right? Not even born yet." Then he continued to laugh. "This is just wonderful." Oliver threw a powerful punch. "Grace is innocent, and my child is innocent too." The man spat out a blood-stained tooth and was still laughing. "For murder. One must pay with their life. If you won't let me seek revenge on that woman, if you won't let me find justice, then I will take justice for my son myself." Before leaving the police station, Oliver requested to see Grace's body again. He only had a small urn in his hands, standing there in a daze, not moving for a long time. At that moment, his phone rang. He instinctively answered the call. "Hello, Grace, Oliver, those people seem to have come back. What should we do? Does Sister Grace still not believe me? Can you tell Sister Grace that I really won't disturb you anymore? Can you let me go?" The man, who had just shown indifference, suddenly revealed a strange smile. His gaze became very profound as he said, "Where are you? I'll come right over." Emily didn't notice anything unusual and quickly told him the address. "I'll be there in 15 minutes. The address is in the alley behind the hospital, very close to the police station. 5 minutes later, Oliver also arrived. He quietly hid in the shadows, watching the woman who had been saying she was harassed by thugs, now leisurely sitting in a chair. Emily was making demands to the thugs, saying they could pull at her clothes, but only the outer ones and not actually touch her. They could tug at her hair, deliberately messing it up. "After he arrives, I will first scream for help. One of you come to cover my mouth, then go provoke him and say some harsh words. You have Oliver's wife backing you up, so be confident. Everyone needs to be a bit tougher." The young men obediently nodded. Before long, the thugs started to make their move. After waiting for a while, Oliver deliberately made some noise and slowly walked in. Seeing him come in, Emily, who was being pulled by the hair, flashed a glimmer of hope and shouted, "Oliver, Oliver!" She cried heartbreakingly, her emotions genuine. One thug covered her mouth and angrily said, "Stop shouting, we have to teach you a lesson." After saying that, several of them began to tear at her clothes. The outer garment was about to be ripped off, but Oliver did not react at all. He didn't rush over to protect Emily like last time, nor did he threaten those punks. Not even a word of concern. He just looked on coldly. The punks froze, and everyone was momentarily unsure of what to do next. Emily, crying pitifully, said to Oliver, "I'll apologize to my sister-in-law later. Can you please save me first?" Oliver finally started to move, taking a few steps, but he didn't go to touch Emily. He was performing quite well. It seemed his previous training had paid off. Emily's expression changed in an instant, her face turning pale. "Have you been here for a long time?" Oliver didn't answer. He took out a phone, Grace's phone. The phone had some blood stains that were cleaned up well, but the cracks around the edges were still unfixed. He emotionlessly scrolled through the provocative messages and ambiguous photos. Suddenly, he forcefully grabbed Emily's hair, as if he wanted to rip her scalp off. Emily truly began to cry, begging, "Please let me go, it really hurts. This is really painful. How much would Grace hurt being stabbed with a knife?" Oliver didn't even blink. "If you say you don't want to break up someone else's family, then what are you doing now?" Before Emily could say anything, Oliver cut her off. "Don't even think about arguing. Even though this number isn't one you commonly use, I can still find it." Emily suppressed her emotions and replied, "Yes, it's me. I remember you said you wanted to break up with her. So what's wrong with letting her go early? The love you said you had for me was all a lie, wasn't it? You don't love me at all. Were all those vows in my heart just empty words? She looked at him, both fragile and stubborn. Oliver, you promised me in person that you would take care of me for a lifetime. Oliver was taken aback for a moment, then suddenly smiled softly, his body trembling with laughter. How did he suddenly remember that he had said the same thing to Grace? The 18-year-old Grace nodded seriously and said, as long as you are good to me. I will always be good to you. But if you ever change your heart, don't hide it. Just tell me directly, and I will leave immediately, never to cling. This woman, who had loved him for 10 years, really left him, decisively leaving. The man's gaze suddenly turned fierce as he tightly gripped Emily's neck in front of him. Didn't you say you were going to apologize to her? I'll let you go today. This lifetime's Liam is very strong. Despite experiencing many accidents, he still survived tenaciously. That day, I despairingly closed my eyes, but after a long time, I didn't feel any pain. When I opened my eyes, I saw that the kidnapper had been caught by several suddenly appearing strong men. Bound and thrown aside, following those strong men was my teacher. She gently helped me up, patting me with concern, saying it was okay, the teacher is here. I relaxed for a moment, and as a result, I fainted. When I woke up again, the teacher was still by my side. I instinctively touched my belly, hesitating to say something. The teacher looked friendly and relaxed, reassuring me that the child is fine and that she would prepare nutritious meals for him to help him recover. She gently pinched my face, emphasizing that I should eat well. I wanted to ask something else, but the teacher handed me a glass of water and reminded me to rest well, saying she had already arranged everything else. People outside will only think that you are really gone. All traces have been wiped clean, and no one can find you. Months later, Liam was born. When the nurse brought him over, I couldn't help but cry. The worries I've had for so long were finally put to rest. It's Liam. The Liam I know. Just like last time, he still loves to laugh. He truly is a reassuring good child. This lifetime, he is different from the last. Now he is cherished by many and has become everyone's little treasure. Now he no longer has to pick up dirty toys. Everyone in the team treats him like their own child and gives him anything good. His favorite is still Ultraman. And now his toys are complete and intact, with no damages. These are brand new and complete sets. Liam is an easygoing child. He always obediently says he already has plenty of toys and doesn't need any new ones. But is that really enough? The regrets from my past life always make my heart ache. I hope to give Liam all the beautiful things, to make him happy and the happiest child. I often dream about that day when Liam left, and it still makes me feel uneasy. I'm sorry, Liam, I disappointed you. Mom, I'm here. Mom didn't let you down. I'm happy every day. His soft little hand gently wiped away my tears, and Liam's small face was close to mine, his voice soft. The big hole in my heart seems to be slowly healing. I hugged Liam, closed my eyes, and had a beautiful dream. It felt like it was destined. I met Oliver again, in the parent-child paradise from my past life. But this time, he wasn't with Emily, nor with that little girl. He wasn't holding anyone's hand, just standing there alone, looking a bit lonely. At that time, Liam and I were playing on the carousel. When he saw me, his eyes lit up and he quickly walked over. As he approached, he saw me holding Liam, and a joyful expression appeared on his face, filled with complex emotions and gratitude. He said, "Grace, you're alive." That's great. He must have felt that fate was reminding him to be here waiting for me. "Come home with me. I've been waiting for you." His words were full of emotion and seemed very determined. At that moment, the little guy in front of me suddenly rushed out and pushed the person in front of him hard. The always smiling Liam was no longer smiling. His cheeks puffed up as he angrily shouted, "Stay away from my mom." Oliver looked shocked and asked, "Son, I'm your dad." His tone softened as he continued, "I know this might be hard for you to accept right now. Don't rush, we can take it slow." He naturally acted like a father. firmly holding Liam's hand, wanting to ask him what he wanted to play. This time, Dad will take you to play. However, just then, a large hand suddenly separated their hands. Sir, it's not appropriate to grab a child like this on the street. Is it? Seeing the person arrive, Liam seemed to retract his thorns. The earlier anger and vigilance disappeared. And he happily jumped into the other's arms, exclaiming, "Dad." Oliver's eyes lit up slightly as he looked at me and asked, "Grace, is this our child? Why did you let him call someone else Dad?" He looked hurt, as if betrayed, and I couldn't help but want to laugh. "He's not your son, you're mistaken." Oliver was certain he looked just like me when I was a child. "He must be my son." He paused for a moment, pain and guilt showing in his eyes, and said, "Grace, I made a mistake before. I believed Emily's words and misunderstood you. I only realized she had been sowing discord between us. But you have to believe me. I've sent her to jail and will never let her disturb you again." Nathan swatted away Oliver's outstretched hand, held me tightly, and coldly warned him that if there were any problems, he should see a psychologist and not disturb my wife and child again, or he wouldn't hold back. Before Oliver could say anything, several uniformed individuals approached and politely but firmly took him away. He struggles desperately, but can only watch as Nathan takes me and Liam further away. Nathan is the teacher's son and a member of the protection team. Since I entered the secure base, he has been responsible for my safety. He was also there when Liam was born. He has almost become a substitute father for Liam. The first time I heard little Liam call him Dad, I almost wanted to interrupt, but Nathan shook his head and skillfully picked up Liam. "I like Liam, so let him be my godson." The teacher laughed happily, "So I guess I can be considered his grandmother from now on. Let Liam call me Grandma." I didn't stop him any longer. Nathan has never hidden his affection for me. "Grace, my body and soul are pure. I'm still your bodyguard and will never interact with any female outside of family for more than an hour." I was about to refuse, but he interrupted me, his eyes filled with sincerity. He told me he had heard about my past and knew I might have some pain. "I won't force you or use marriage to restrict you. I'll only restrain myself. Just give me a chance." Okay, Nathan is a person with high emotional intelligence, and being with him always feels comfortable. He is very clever. When I refused, he stepped back, keeping his distance, like an ordinary bodyguard standing by my side. When I relaxed a bit, he leaned in. But he was very polite, cautiously probing with his words. He cares about my feelings and also cares about Liam's feelings. Liam has been accustomed to having this father figure since he was little. Even after growing up and knowing that his biological father is actually someone else, he feels no estrangement towards Nathan. That night, Oliver had a dream. In the dream, Grace told him they had a child. On the surface, he was happy, but inside he was thinking about how to leave. He promised Emily that as long as he left a child with Grace, he would leave and start over with her. The plan went smoothly. He arranged for a car accident and had someone keep an eye on Grace, learning that she and the child were doing well. Even without any photos, he still believed it, never verifying it. It wasn't until he saw the boy in the amusement park, who looked as frail as a little beggar, and Grace's desperate eyes, and then the news of Grace's suicide, that he realized how difficult life had been for this mother and son after he left. Liam fell ill due to a medical accident, and Grace exhausted all her savings, but still couldn't save him in the end. They could only survive by scavenging. At that time, he seemed to have no particularly strong emotions. Just a soft sigh. After uncovering the truth, he understood that it was all Emily's doing. Emily made Liam sick and also had people cover up these matters. Emily was responsible for the final outcome of Liam and Grace. So what? He wouldn't blame those around him or destroy his beautiful family because of a deceased person and an emotionally detached child. Oliver casually set the report aside and simply told his subordinate to find a good place for them to be buried. The tight pain in his chest grew more severe, feeling as if the air had become heavy and breathing was difficult. The man woke up in a cold sweat from the nightmare, opening his eyes to see that it was dawn. Oliver abruptly sat up and realized he was in a detention center. He bailed out Emily, who was still waiting for a third hearing and refused to accept the judgment. Emily looked very happy, chattering all the way, "Oliver, you still love me, right? Did you solve this with money? I really don't want to go back to that place." "I'll do anything," Oliver responded absent-mindedly. When they got home, he gently said to Emily, "Wait here for a moment, I have a gift for you." He turned and went into the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and crazily attacked Emily. 15 years later, after years of effort, the research project finally yielded results. I received a Lifetime Achievement Award. With my son and Nathan looking proudly at me, I walked onto the stage, facing the media's flashing lights. Thank you for the support along the way, and thanks to my mentors and family. A few people in the audience were so moved they were about to cry. Although Nathan and I are not married, over the years, everyone, including Liam, has long considered us a couple. In fact, I was the one who suggested not getting married, so Nathan would have some leeway to leave any time he wanted. Nathan didn't insist, he simply said, "Grace, what truly makes people willingly be together is not marriage itself, but love." 2 prisoners in separate jails saw this video in the news. In the video, Emily's face and body are covered in scars, all inflicted by Oliver. If the neighbor hadn't heard her screams and called the police, she might have died 15 years ago. Though she was given a second chance at life, she could not escape the punishment of prison. She was sentenced to prison for deliberately harming children in medical research. Also imprisoned with her was a man named Oliver, who was suspected of intentional murder. I have lived well these 15 years, although my research has turned my hair white. My face hasn't changed much. She recognized me easily, her eyes showing resentment. She seemed to feel that it shouldn't be this way. It should be me standing there because my research should be famous. I should also have a wealthy husband supporting me in my pursuit of honor. It shouldn't be Grace. It really shouldn't be her. This should be mine. Oliver looked up at the screen in the prison, tears streaming down his face. "Grace, my Grace, I'm so sorry. If there's a next life, I will hold on to you tightly."